Namaskar. Welcome to Supply Chain India. Uttar Pradesh is riding high. It has moved up the ladder of ease of doing business prepared by Niti Aayog and sitting at second position. And its infra building push is interesting. A brand new international airport on the banks of Yamuna Expressway is coming up. We travel to the chosen location for a spot report. You look right, it's green. You look left, it's green. Green everywhere. Verdant. A pleasant sight indeed. Grazing cattle, rippleless ponds, tall yellowing grass stalks on both sides of the narrow tarred road. An unseen tractor blaring songs somewhere on the vast landscape. Several motorcycles whiz past on the tiny stretch to the village at a distance. Soon these fields may vanish, ponds may disappear, cattle will be barred to roam around. Instead, there will be an international airport at this village called Tora and surroundings to cater to a crore passengers passing through this Asia's biggest airport over the next few years. That is what Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is attempting. The proposed airport will occupy 48 hectares. The land acquisition is still in process. Land is being acquired from the villagers at a decent price as stipulated under the law. A majority of the villagers who will move away to make room for Asia's biggest airport over the next 2 years have already collected money from the government. Some have not. They have filed a case in the court instead. Stalling? Maybe temporarily.
हाँ जी, पैसा कुछ लोग अभी रह गए हैं जिन्होंने केस डाल रखा है।
अच्छा।
तो उन लोगों ने उठाया नहीं, उन्होंने जमीन भी वो रखी है।
हाँ।
और ये जो एरिया है अपना इधर का, इन लोगों ने सबने पैसा ले चुके हैं। खुश हैं, अब तो खुश ही मानो जब पैसा उठा लिया तो।
Jawar is a tahsil in western Uttar Pradesh, an agrarian landscape on the banks of Yamuna Expressway. Yogi Adityanath has vested the responsibility of executing this prestigious airport project to the Yamuna Expressway Industrial Development Authority. This organization has selected a Swiss company to execute the project. The COVID has delayed the commencement of the project. The company officials will be reaching India soon to sign the contract and commence the work, fully funded by it. Zurich AG is not new to Indian aviation segment. They were part of the Kempegowda International Airport in Bangalore with 17% equity before exiting in 2017. This company operates 8 airports in the world. The airport is being built at an estimated cost of 5,000 crore rupees in phase 1. When the airport with 5 runways will be ready, the cost may go up to 30,000 crore rupees. Still, there are some niggling issues to be sorted out. With money coming in, what could be the pattern of farmer spending? Invest wisely or spend lavishly?
यूज तो भाई जमीन ले ले।
हाँ।
कुछ लोग गाड़ी भी ले रहे हैं अपनों, जैसा भी जो शौक मौज है वो शौक मौज भी कर रहे हैं। अधिकतर पब्लिक ने जमीन ज्यादा ली है।
Those farmers fighting the government and refusing to accept the payment may be the losers.
वो तहसीलदार साहब ने कहा है नो के अपना पैसा उठा लें तो बढ़िया रहेंगे, क्योंकि पैसा कोर्ट में पहुंच जाएगा।
अच्छा।
कोर्ट में फिर कट के मिलेगा और किस्तों द्वारा पैसा मिलेगा, एक साथ पैसा नहीं मिलेगा। जैसे अब हम लोगों को पैसा जो मिल गया वो पैसा ऐसे नहीं मिलेगा। फिर उन्होंने समझाई, कुछ लोगों की समझ में ना आई तो उन लोगों ने केस भी।
The resettlement of displaced farmers is not going to be easy.
इससे नुकसान ही है, गांव के लोगों को तो नुकसान है।
हाँ।
यहाँ जमीन काफी पुराने बुजुर्ग रहते आए हुए हैं, अब यहाँ से जमीन बेच जाएंगे और यहाँ से गांव भी उठ जाएगा, तो फिर रहने में दिक्कत होगी, दूसरी जगह जाने में दिक्कत होगी। और फिर जमीन जब यहाँ से चली जाएगी, किसी की भी जमीन ऐसी नहीं जिसने 50-60 किलोमीटर से पहले ली हो, सबकी दूर दूर जमीन है, तो वहाँ जमीन करने तो कोई जाएगा ही नहीं। सब जमीन अपनी पेश की उठाएंगे। यहाँ जमीन थी तो यहाँ खुद करते थे, अपना खाना भी खाते थे उसी से, जमा और अपना भैंसों के लिए चारा वारा भी था उससे ही।
Though the Chief Minister is fast-tracking this airport project, this airport idea has been in the horizon for long. Now that it has gained momentum, the chances of this project derailing is out of question. The local member of Legislative Assembly in Uttar Pradesh Vidhan Sabha has managed to get the compensation hike marginally. That's it. The worry is not about selling land and going away. The big concern is how to manage the cattle with no land to graze whenever they are resettled. What if there is a delay in resettlement? Already fresh sowing is disallowed with securities keeping a vigil. The undercurrent is farmers are not happy about the way this project is being rolled out by the government.
क्योंकि ग्रामीण स्तर के लोग तो जो ग्राम में रहते हैं तो अपने चारे की व्यवस्था, पशु की और ट्रैक्टर या ट्रोलों की व्यवस्था तो अपने नज़दीक जो आता है खेत, जहाँ पहले खेत होता था, जबकि खेत तो अब है नहीं, लगभग 30 या 40 साल से लोग उसमें बसे हुए हैं। बाकी इनका कहना है कि प्रशासन बोलता है कि जी हमने आपको दर्ज ही नहीं किया है, हम आपको इसका 50% नहीं दे सकते। तो ये भी हमारे वादा खिलाफी के ही अनुसार है। एक तरफ आप कहते हैं कि जहाँ पर आपके पशु बाड़े हैं, जहाँ पर आपके ट्रैक्टर ट्रॉली का सामान है, हम आपको 50% देंगे, और वहीं प्राधिकरण के कुछ नुमाइंदा बोलते हैं कि जी इतने इसका तो आपने मुआवजा ले लिया है, हम आपको इसका नहीं दे पाएंगे।
Still, there are some who view this upcoming project positively. Rakesh Kshatriya, living in Jawar for 40 years, is one such personality.
बेसिकली क्या है ना, यहाँ पे लोगों के पास इतना ज़मीनें नहीं है, ज़मीनों का जो एरिया है बहुत कम हो गया है। पहले फैमिलियाँ छोटी थी, अभी फैमिली बहुत बढ़ के और अलग अलग होके ज़्यादा हो गए। अब किसी के 2 बच्चे थे, 2 बच्चों के पास ज़मीन हो गया 50 बीघे, अब 2 बच्चों के 4 बच्चे हो गए तो ज़मीन 50 बीघे की जगह 4 बच्चों के 10-10 बीघे हो गया। अब ना तो उस ज़मीन को बंटवारा हो गया, बंटवारा होने के और ना तो वो बेच सकते हैं, ना खरीद सकते हैं, ना उसमें कुछ बो सकते हैं। तो इसलिए मजबूरी है कि कम जो ज़मीन है अगर वो बेच के आज की डेट में गवर्नमेंट को चले जाए, उनका पैसा आ जाए तो पैसे से कुछ कर सकते हैं। रही बात एयरपोर्ट को एक्वायरमेंट करने के लिए, एयरपोर्ट ने जो ज़मीन एक्वायरमेंट करी है वो ज़मीन करी है जो गवर्नमेंट की अपनी ज़मीन थी, ज़्यादातर जो बंजर ज़मीन थी जिस पर कुछ होता नहीं था। अब उसके पास की जो ज़मीन है, जो ग्रीन बेल्ट है जिसमें उगाई होती है, वो बहुत कम ज़मीन है। तो इसलिए लोगों को लगता है एयरपोर्ट आ गया, निकाल दें तो ही अच्छा होगा।
There is a lot of government talk that this project will generate huge job opportunity with the expectation of warehouses and industrial hubs coming up in the vicinity of this airport. Atria does not buy this logic.
एयरपोर्ट आने से देखा जाए तो पब्लिकली कोई फ़ायदा होने वाला है नहीं, पब्लिकली कोई होने वाला नहीं। गवर्नमेंट को फ़ायदा हो सकता है, कंपनी आएंगी, कंपनियों के लिए यहाँ जॉब बहुत कट ऑफ है, बहुत ज़्यादा जॉब मिलने वाले हैं नहीं लोगों को, क्योंकि जो लोकल लोग जो होते हैं उनको कंपनियाँ वैसे ही जॉब प्रोवाइड नहीं करती। एक तो लोकल लोग क्या है, लोकल गर्दी आ गई भाई, 10 लोग इकट्ठे हो गए, यूनियन बन गया, अगले दिन कंपनी बंद,
इसलिए नहीं लेते,
इसलिए लोकल को कंपनी में लेते ही नहीं। गवर्नमेंट कितना भी प्रेशर करे, गवर्नमेंट ने एक चीज़ रखी थी जॉब के लिए कि भाई 70-30, 70% लोग यहाँ के रहेंगे जिनकी ज़मीनें जा रही है, 30 बाहर के लेंगे। लेकिन अब उल्टा है, 70 बाहर के आ जाते हैं, 30 यहाँ के रह जाते हैं, और 30 में वो लोग रह जाते हैं यहाँ के जो आधे लीडर हैं, जो काम ही नहीं करना चाहते। तो कहाँ से बढ़ेगी इंडस्ट्री? गवर्नमेंट ने बना के दे दिया, पैसा दे दिया, ज़मीनें खरीद के दे दी, लेकिन लोग नहीं है, लेबर है लेकिन करना नहीं चाहते।
Today, those living in Western UP, including Noida, travel to Palam or Dwarka airports in Delhi, say 60-70 kilometers away via congested Delhi roads. When the Jawar airport comes up with 2 runways in phase 1 and 5 in phase 2, the distance for air passengers will not shrink. It's again far away. Maybe they don't have to cross Uttar Pradesh border into Delhi. Airports have definitely reshaped the cities globally. Rather, airports built fresh towns around them. Can you recall what Gurugram was in the 1970s and 80s when Delhi had just 1 airport at Palam? Today we have 3 airports, 1 in Palam and 2 in Dwarka. And these 3 airports have created a huge industrial town in the surrounding. Warehouses, automobile plants and component suppliers. And the multitude of Indian companies moved away from Delhi to set up their headquarters closer to the airport in Gurugram. Not to be forgotten is the massive residential complexes that have sprung up to service the huge industrial town in the vicinity of these airports. A boom town. UP Chief Minister Adityanath is definitely nursing such a vision. So it is not surprising that the state he rules since 2017 has risen to the 2nd slot in the ease of doing business ranking computed by Niti Aayog. Don't forget, Uttar Pradesh was for very long part bracketed with Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and derisively called the Bimaru states, the most underdeveloped ones. Today, the state is riding high on hopes and big plans. The Jawar International Airport is part of Adityanath's plans to get the best industrialized stack for Uttar Pradesh. It's a tough task, no doubt, but doable. By the time this airport is up and flying, many flyers may opt for Jawar instead of Delhi airports. Aerotropolis is something as a decade-old word. It was popularized by John Cassandra from United States. He wrote a book along with Greg Lindsay on Aerotropolis. We bring you a short excerpt from this book.
Cities are always created around whatever the state-of-the-art transportation device is at the time. When the state-of-the-art is shoe leather and donkeys, the result is the hilly parts of Jerusalem. When it's men on horseback and sailing ships, it's the ports of Lisbon, Hong Kong, or Boston, and the canals of Venice and Amsterdam. The birth of railroad produced Kansas City, Omaha, and the stockyards of Chicago. And the mass production of the Model T led first to Los Angeles and later to Levittown. Today, the modern combination on the ground is automobile and internet, which are everywhere and nowhere within America, and have since cropped up in Bangalore and beyond. Soaring above them all are jet aircrafts, first put into service 60 years ago, at the onset of the jet age, collapsing the distance between Dallas and Dubai as effortlessly as the internet nodes connecting them. A large and growing proportion of goods move internationally as a consequence of trade and modern supply chains. Components are made in a dozen different countries and assembled in a 13th. They move by air, either because there's an emergency, because it's too valuable to sit in a warehouse, or because it's perishable, like flowers, fish, and pharmaceutical. All of this passes through a physical internet, the network of hubs and planes, for trading and transporting goods and people, almost as quickly as the internet itself. And it's arguably more important. The web can't move your box from Amazon. The Aerotropolis is the urban incarnation of this physical internet, the primary of air transport, makes airports and their hinterlands the place to see how it functions and to observe the consequences. Three rules of real estate have changed from location, location, location to accessibility, accessibility, accessibility. There's a new metric. It's no longer space, it's time and cost.
When we return on the other side, we'll put you in the time machine to take you back to the BC era.
Are you part of the new fleet evolution? The transition is already underway. Fleets are using data to manage smarter, keeping drivers safe, streamlining operations, keeping customers satisfied. This requires agility and the right platform. Did you know that 94% of road accidents are caused by human error? What if your drivers had an active coach, keeping them engaged and safe and reducing their stress? And what about your managers? What if you could cut their administrative workload and help them gain visibility and control of the fleet? Green Road supports you with one unified platform. Our advanced active coaching gives drivers clear feedback to help them drive more safely and efficiently, and keeps them motivated via personalized information and friendly competition. In the office, online dashboards keep the right information at your fingertips, freeing you to focus on exceptions and pressing issues. Whether you require an app, an installed solution, or other sensors, all are integrated into a single platform that helps you manage diverse operations proactively across the world. The result? Safe drivers, reduced risk, protection for your brand, and savings for your business. The Green Road platform is quick and easy to deploy at scale, even for fleets with thousands of drivers and vehicles throughout the world. Green Road.
Welcome back. Logistics is as old as history, where nations fight with each other. These fights require men and material. To fight is to marshal these important inputs. Army generals are the world's oldest logisticians. If there were wars, then there were logisticians. From our bookshelves, we dig in to find one to present here.
When you hear the name Hannibal, I will not mistake you if you think of Dr. Hannibal Lecter. It was Sir Anthony Hopkins who did this bloody curling cannibal character in that memorable movie Silence of the Lambs in 1992. This Hollywood movie won him the Oscar for the Best Actor award that year. His co-star Jodie Foster also walked away with the Oscar for the Best Actress award the same year. Hang on, we are not talking about Hopkins' Hannibal. We are referring to Hannibal Barca. Who is he? Good question. He was the Carthaginian general who lived in the 3rd century before Christ. What is his relevance to this program? You will be surprised to know he was considered to be one of the world's best logisticians. 218 years before Christ, he did a remarkable thing. He crossed the Alps that year. Until Hannibal did that, no one dared to do that. By the way, he did not cross the Alps alone. Then what? He had 90,000 infantrymen, 12,000 cavalry, and 40 war elephants for the company. This war general was marching with his troop to invade Italy to cover 1,000 miles path over the mountain, river, forest. Hannibal took 16 days in September and October that year. Historians call it the Second Punic War. He managed to defeat the unbeaten Romans at last. It was no easy job. Historians put him in the company of Alexander the Great, who lived before him, or Genghis Khan, who lived 1400 years after Hannibal Barca, or Duke Wellington 2000 years later. Patrick Hunt, an archaeologist, historian, and biographer, wrote the book Hannibal in 2017. In this book, he writes, I quote, "Every year for the past 20 years, I have stood at the summits of alpine passes, ascending and descending rocky footpaths and road surfaces in every calendar season, whether in biting wind and flurries of snow, not uncommon above 8,000 feet, even in August, or on gutsy, sunnier days. I have marveled at the challenges Hannibal faced on his intrepid marches and campaigns." Unquote. A genius logistician truly. Supply Chain India salutes him.
We are sure you never expected a story on Hannibal Barca. At Supply Chain India, we believe in doing things differently. Now, supply chain visibility is a keenly debated topic. We bring you something to kindle your interest.
You may or may not know Edwin Kane. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Hong Kong Research Institute of Textile and Apparel. He said this recently. When one is ejected from the cockpit in a jungle, particularly in the enemy territory, fighter pilots' concern is about tackling mosquitoes, not tigers and bears. His point was, we ignore the tiny or invisible challenges. Or to put it differently, supply chain experts in the manufacturing setup talk about and focus a lot on the supply chain visibility at the top level, maybe one layer down. That is at the tier 1 vendor level in this age of outsourcing. What about the vendor's vendor or vendor's vendor's vendor? Kay has a company on his assessment. Too many actually. But it is worth mentioning Professor Yossi Sheffi, Director of MIT Center of Logistics and Supply Chain. Why is it important to barrel down to the bottom of vendors? Because today's manufacturing is too complex. There is too much interdependence. One miss or slip, the entire production will stop. In the current COVID scenario, to reboot manufacturing, understanding the unknowns is critical. Otherwise, even a small nut or bolt in the car assembly line or zip or button in a ready-made garment shop floor will grind to a halt. Yes, don't undermine the unknown. Every tier is critical.
Supply chain visibility, it certainly is table stakes today. It wasn't too long ago that visibility was nice to have. Now it's a must-have. So it's really important to know what's going on inside your supply chain at all times in real time. There are potential disruptions in the supply chain. There are market opportunities. Things change. So having visibility to what's going on all the way upstream to all the way downstream just gives you that comfort level to be able to manage all of those moving parts, respond to potential disruptions or opportunities that might arise while a shipment is in transit.
So supply chain visibility is mainly related to sharing of information within its internal stakeholders of the supply chain, mainly from the perspective of supply chain efficiency and effectiveness. So what you can more related to details about an item or order the status in terms of how it is moving, only in terms of its location, inventory location or order location, means the processing. So the whole objective is mainly to keep a track and to avoid any disruption and in case any changes, abnormalities or disruptions to take corrective action. So that is supply chain visibility.
Because today we are living in a very, manufacturing is very complex. Everything is outsourced, vendors. So, like any big organization at the OEM level, okay, so they basically look at the supply chain visibility of a tier 1. They very rarely go beyond tier 1. Why, the supply chain visibility is not going deep down? That's what my question is.
Yeah, it's not the first or second tier normally speaking, because again you need infrastructure and investments and then technological capabilities mainly. And so far lot of these OEMs and major supply chain players have gone to that extent because they didn't feel the need so much. But now with a lot of focus on efficiencies, effectiveness and lot of pressure from consumers, so from that perspective, they're trying to get into. So it's not easy to implement because those tier 2 or tier 3 suppliers may not have the where share information. And of course, anytime they're not keen or willing to also. So you need to motivate them or incentivize them. So it's in terms of upstream the supply chain. Because you have your suppliers and your suppliers' suppliers and then their suppliers and so on, if it's a multi-supply chain. And there's another term also, you also asked for about transparency. 3 related but different concepts. So I talked about visibility, which is mainly from internal supply chain stakeholders' perspective.
Yeah.
Just to track and trace and so that they are to have efficiency and effectiveness. And then there are the other extreme is transparency, mainly from business and regulatory perspective. And here the information is shared stakeholders, and these stakeholders may include NGOs, public interest groups, government, regulators, and so on. And not only do you share information about what is going on, you also share information about, say, how you took those decisions many times. And in between is the concept of traceability, which is mainly driven by more consumer awareness now, where and it's more particularly in drugs and food, where safety is a concern or where there is a concern about counterfeits or quality issues are there. So you need to trace the origin of the items or components within, maybe consumers driven, maybe driven by NGOs or regulations or other stakeholders. So the traceability comes in, and nowadays so provenance has to be there, and you have now emerging like blockchain, etc., which probably can be used there. So traceability has to do with say SDG or ESG, say environmental, social, and governance issues. So that is somewhere in between transparency and visibility.
How far in the Indian, manufacturing segment, the blockchain has really crept in?
So far, almost none, especially in manufacturing. But we carried out a survey and through LinkedIn, and there is enough awareness and a little bit awareness to go. But again, since it's cost prohibitive for many manufacturing industries as of now, so they are not venturing into it, although they find it fascinating.
Okay, but how desirable is blockchain, for the manufacturing segment? How exactly it can really, help them in improving the operational efficiency?
Efficiency, it may improve in terms of quicker decisions would be taken, and they will be variable, so you don't need to go back most of the times. But otherwise, the impact is not so much efficiency. The impact is more on this traceability and doing away with counterfeits and assurance and trust. So a lot of it has to do with trust and provenance.
Okay.
And then this is a type of, you can do something like crowdsourcing. where all the stakeholders together take a decision. Means it's validated or by the stakeholders.
That's all in this edition of Supply Chain India. Hope you liked it. Share it, subscribe, give your feedback in the columns below. Stay safe, stay healthy. See you soon. Bye.